In chapter 19, she realizes that she has died. She's completed the passage or the initiation. She made it all the way through. She impressed not only Arrow but herself. But she's very sick. And in chapter 19, it's on page 128. She's lying in the hut, and Mitwud is taking care of her and rubbing oils on her. And she asks, "Where are we?" I asked, rubbing the oil on my eyes. It felt good. "In my hut." "Which I died," I whispered. "You had to." "I was in a woman's head and I felt." "Don't think about it," he said, getting up. He picked up a plate of food sitting on his table. "Right now you have to eat." It's almost as if a conflict going on between her. While she wants to learn these things, she's realizing what she's going to have to go through to get them. However, not all is terrible, because also in chapter 19 on page 130, she has found that she has the power to regrow her female piece that was cut off during her circumcision. Up until that point, she would only have ever been able to serve a man. She would have never felt any real pleasure. But going through her death in this initiation, she was able to learn how to also regrow her own body parts. And she was able to actually experience pleasure for her. No longer will she be bound to a man just to have babies. As our bodies met fully, finally throughout, Mitchell reminded me to breathe. As he moved inside of me, he continued to remind me, but by this time I wasn't listening. It was exquisite. Soon I was so hot that I was shaking. Minutes passed. The sensation began to feel earnest, then agitating. I couldn't release. I had been circumcised. "Mitchell," I said, "we are both slick with sweat." "Ah," he said out of breath. Something's wrong with me." I squeezed my face. "I can't." He stopped moving, and the terrible sensation in my loins decreased. He looked at me, beads of sweat dripping on my chest. He surprised me with a smile. "Do something about it, then, Ishur woman." I blinked, realizing what he meant. I concentrated. He began to move inside of me again, and immediately I felt like I had released my very being. "Oh," I moaned. From far off I could hear him laughing as I fell asleep with a sigh. A tiny piece of flesh made all the difference. Growing it back hadn't been hard, and it pleased me for that once in my life obtaining something of importance was easy. So now she's finding that her gift can create importance in her, can allow her to be able to do these things. For once, it's like we see her happy. Normally she's had happiness in other parts, but usually it's followed by great sadness. This, for once, she was able to go to bed happy. She again is asserting her power within herself. On page 137, we see her able to actually start asserting her power with Arrow, who was supposed to be her teacher, who for years denied her this right of learning Juju or learning about herself. He tells her, "And don't interrupt me, then don't continue with these assumptions. If you're going to teach me, I don't want to hear any of that. I'll stop having intercourse with Luta. Okay, I apologize, but he and I will both make the effort to refrain like two humans." I was shouting now. "Flawed, imperfect creatures. That is what we both are, Olga. That's what we all are." He stood up. I didn't move, my heart pounding hard in my chest. "Okay," Arrow said with a smirk. "I will try." Before, he basically wouldn't even let her come into his hut. He banished her. He told her she was unworthy, she was a woman. Now she's allowed to yell at him. The tables have certainly turned. And then finally in chapter 22, on page 147, I feel as though she's beginning to finally see just how beautiful and probably also dangerous her powers can be. Arrow has tried to make her basically bring a goat that he killed back to life. We had seen where she had made her father, once he died, breathe again. However, with this goat, she's trying to heal his wound. She says, "Anger flared in me, and I couldn't feel the ground beneath me, and I could feel the ground beneath me grow warm. Then it felt as I knelt on hundreds of metal-bodied ants. They moved about underneath me, conducting something through me. I understood. I pulled it up from the ground and pushed it into my hands. More and more there was an endless supply of it. I drew from my anger at Arrow and from my own reserve of power. I drew from Arrow's strengths too. She's learning that she can draw from herself, she can draw from other people around her, and she basically can now bring animals back to life. She can regrow things on her body. Her anger, though, seems to be what could ultimately be her downfall. Only time will tell.